Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sunday Night Breakdown on a Sunday. It's not often when there's a Cheshire game, but we're going to try and do it because there's only three games yet again, Dave.
Yeah, I know it's an interesting schedule, very interesting way of building up enthusiasm in the season. But it's actually slightly tricky because this time last year we were playing trophy games,
Mm,
and you had to get there in quite quickly.
mm,
8 games in a group and 6 games in the other group. And what we have to remember is that we've lost basically the northern teams have lost 6 games out of the schedule this year.
yeah.
Southern teams lost 4 games out of the schedule because the trophy groups are just going to be 2 games.
Mm.
So I suppose that's where so there is actually going to be a little bit probably less in the way of double headers and a little bit less manic hopefully near the end because that's quite a lot of games to miss.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah.
Games again, it just can't, if you take away 6 of the games in the middle of March last year that Bristol were complaining about, they wouldn't have been busy.
No,
You know,
no,
you know, you know,
they'd have
you know,
been one a week, wouldn't they? If you
on a
take
week
six of
exactly.
them,
So
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
should be more manageable. It should be more manageable, but we're feeling the pain at the moment.
Mm. Dave, some exciting news. We've had an email, Dave.
All right, an
Here we
email.
go. Let
Have you
me
ever
read
had an
it to
email
you.
before?
Not
No.
as exciting as this, Dave.
All right, great, a fresh
It
email.
says, it says, Hi, Sunday Night Breakdown. We will soon be enabling automatic dubbing on your channel. This means that YouTube will automatically generate translated audio tracks in different languages, making your content accessible to more viewers.
Wow. So if you're in Hong Kong and you can't quite catch the Geordie,
Yeah.
you're gonna. Wow. I mean,
This is
do you
going to
think
be amazing.
artists-
Hawaii man in Spanish. It's going to be brilliant.
I'm reminded of Paul Whitehouse in Julio Jodio.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Can't do in the pub like you know. Yeah, so it should be. Yeah, oh, that's brilliant. So we
Yeah.
are really going kind of
Going
global.
global. Only for the YouTube audience. I don't think Spotify
Yeah.
does it yet, but it can only be a matter of time. By the
Okay.
way, Spotify also creates, I noticed, automatic chapters with it gives them the names as well, just in case anybody's on Spotify. I have not written any of that. So when it said something about Omni Shambles in one of the chapters, that was entirely AI generated.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Well, what about the latest gossip, Dan? Come on, the latest gossip in the online world of the movers and shakers
Yeah,
came by way of what appears to have been a LinkedIn post by
yeah. Machiavelli.
yeah, our heretofore glorious leader, in the Kim Jong Un kind of description,
Hmm.
which went as follow. This is from on Friday. It came out from Chris Grant, OBE, erstwhile head of BBF. For the reformer has enemies in all those who profit by the old order, and only lukewarm defenders in all those who would profit by the new order. This lukewarmness, I'm not sure about that word, arising partly from the incredulity of mankind, well, not far wrong there, who do not truly believe in anything new until they have had actual experience of it. A quote, apparently, and I haven't checked it or verified it, from Niccolo Machiavelli.
Mm.
Um,
Interesting choice to quote from
So,
Machiavelli.
so basically, the immediate thought from my perspective was, so we have a chair of BBF who has a God complex and an interest in Machiavelli. What could possibly have gone wrong? Um, basically, which would tend to suggest that that his reforming zeal has been put out of business.
Mm.
That's my interpretation of that.
I noticed you used the word erstwhile there, Dave, unless you've seen
Yeah.
something that I haven't
No,
officially
I don't know.
seen.
I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
yeah, yeah,
I'm guessing. I just used it because I thought it made me sound good and it padded out
yeah,
the sentence.
yeah.
Um, but no,
It
not
does
at all.
read that way, to be
It
fair.
reads like basically that Mr. Glickman's not really that bothered about all the nonsense he's created.
Mm,
That all that he's run into far too much in the way of protestation from all the businesses he would ruin.
mm,
Surprise, surprise. That's the reformer who has enemies and all those who profit by the old order.
mm.
I mean, what kind of world are we in where, you know, the head of the sport is quoting Machiavelli, talking about enemies? I mean, this is
The other
sport.
the other interesting thing about that is isn't the theory that the people who profit from the old order will profit even more from the new order? Isn't it? Wasn't that
Well,
the
yeah,
whole point?
I mean, that's why I was wondering whether he was talking about the new order, whether he was talking about the same people as the old order. But I
Mm,
mean, the type of how can you, the type of individual who puts out something like that, which is deliberately oblique, is opaque, sorry, is there to kind of demonstrate you as both a man, to indicate you're a man of learning, but you're making a point without being able to say it straight up.
mm,
How can you work with people like that?
mm,
I'm afraid, people probably know by now, I am pretty anti-grant. And after not initially being anti-grant, but what's happened in the way that they've managed the process over the last year has been abominable.
mm,
Because processes, and particularly in sport, it requires a degree of compromise and a degree of good faith. And if he is operating in that way, whereby suddenly his view of the SLB owners, who, whether we like them or not, are people who have put their own money in to try to run a sport that we can watch and be entertained by, is that they are his enemies. Well, that just sums up the whole issue. That
mm,
just sums up in one, it's a way of being hoisted by your own petard, shot on your own foot. Thank you for the window into your mind. The window
mm,
into your mind is you are our enemies. How did we ever get to that position?
yeah.
And that's the only reason I raise it. I don't know if he's still there or not. I rather anticipate he's not, having heard of that,
Mm.
having read that. It really sounds like kind of a
It's
relatively
an odd quote to put
bitter
out
parting shot.
unless it was all coming to an end, isn't it?
Yeah, a bitter parting shot. And who knows where we go after this? Because the one thing British basketball's taught us is that if you wish for something else, it's generally worse.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
quite sure it gets much worse, I'll be honest, than where we are at the moment. I mean, the High Court's a new one on everybody, isn't it? Or
yeah,
even after
yeah,
5
yeah.
years. But I just thought it was a window into the mind.
Mm,
If that's the way you're treating this is all just a big political game. And that's what me and you and others have been complaining about for the past 12 months,
yeah, yeah,
treating it as a big political game. So yeah, so let's watch this space, shall we?
yeah.
Let's see. Right, and hopefully this will be YouTubed over to FIBA headquarters in multiple different languages.
Garbahosa won't need a
Oh,
translator.
well, so wouldn't be a translator for me saying, as is regularly over about
Yeah.
regularly every 3 months, I
He
told
might
you so.
need a few Geordie phrases translated.
Yeah, I told you so. That's pretty universal. I told you so. We told you
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah.
Please, can we sort this mess out?
Mm.
Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, moving on to some basketball. Let's start in on Friday night in Newcastle. Newcastle Eagles 77, London Lions 82. No Ward Hibbert or Defoe still for the Eagles. No Reynolds, who had that injury in the Euro Cup game
Yeah,
the week before, wasn't it? Or
yeah,
Soko, which means Karolis Lukashanis, I think it is, was in for his SLB debut. Eagles 0 for 10 from the floor. Didn't make a field goal until 2:13 left in the first quarter, by which point they were 19-6 behind. And London had already got 10 players in and out of the game.
yeah. I think you've just summarised the whole first quarter there, and then every significant point. Um, London started Adamu at the point guard, which was interesting because I'm not aware that he's ever played point guard before. Maybe he did in Finland. I don't think so. And the one thing about Amin Adamu when you see him up front is he is an absolute physical specimen.
He is, yeah.
He really is. He's not. He is probably. He must be 6'4", but he is a athletic, um, dynamic, um, attacker for somebody at that size. It's rare that you see someone so muscled who is so quick, if I can put it that way.
Mm,
And so that I think that threw Newcastle a little bit because obviously I don't know if the scouting report would have had Philip on it or not, but I don't imagine he would have anticipated Adamu starting at the point, and that's because Adamu has strengths and weaknesses. He's not as strong at getting the team into the offense. He's a guy you have to really game plan for because if you give him a half a step at the 3-point line, it's a layup. You've got to make him try and shoot, contested jump shots over you. And I didn't think Newcastle got that game plan right early on. London, of course, they're hurting as well. They had two advantages insofar as one, early season, they played on Tuesday night. They got well beaten in Turkey, but they're playing at the moment. Um, and obviously Newcastle hadn't played for 10 days, so you have that little bit of rust. And early on in the season, um, you don't need the rest. You want the games, you know. Um, and on top of that, they got beat by 30, so they were hurting. So early on in the season, again, that's before people start disliking each other. So you try to put, you get a couple of good whackings. So they came out and they were really good. I mean, their starting five is higher level, for SLB. The difference was in the kind of the size. McGusty is a genuine 6'6" with long arms and an ability to go off the dribble. As I said, Darwin 6'4", Ray 6'6", Scott at the power forward, genuine 6'9", and Williams 6'10". And the one thing I was really impressed with London was that if Newcastle made a mistake, Newcastle's defense was basically okay, but if they made a mistake or somebody slipped or if they're out of position, then it was one attack and it was a pass and it was a dunk or it was an open three.
Mm.
They were ruthless with that. Their starting five. Defensively, yeah, they are just. I mean, physically they were really locked in. Newcastle couldn't really get anything going in the post. A bit long. I think the long read starting front court didn't give them enough against the physical disadvantages that they had with Scott and Williams. So they couldn't really throw the ball down in the post either, and that meant that basically had Williams not committed a silly unsportsmanlike foul on the baseline, and given two foul shots Newcastle, they could have been held, they could have been in single figures in the first quarter or the first 8 minutes anyway.
Mm.
But then, I'd say, London's second five is not the same as the first five. That's the reality. Obviously, he kept Philip he knows that because he kept Philip in the reserves and brought him on to try and give them something. But they didn't look anything like as cohesive. And the thing with Newcastle is obviously Newcastle have 7 or 8 guys who are kind of all about the level. You don't see any of them think, well, he's a weak link. So you've always got 2 or 3 of your starters on. And so suddenly it goes from 5 London starters against 5 Newcastle starters, and London outplaying them, to suddenly a kind of a compromise unit of Newcastle's bench with some of their starters playing against London's bench, and suddenly Maceo Jack scoring the ball, and Taylor's getting comfortable. And then so remarkably after that first quarter, halfway through the second quarter, Newcastle are leading, and no one quite figured out how. Because
Yeah,
London,
yeah.
London, I mean, if London were getting points for artistic impression on their offensive basketball in the first half, they'd have been up by 50.
Yeah, yeah.
Every shot was a dunk or a three. It was brilliant, but you only get 2 for a dunk.
You do, yeah. Eagles 3 of 13 from the floor in the first quarter, but 10 of 10 from the free throw line. Can we, which it sounds like a Geordie term
Can we?
to me. I don't
Money.
know what it means, but it sounds like a Geordie term. He had 7 in a row, cut it to 23-21, as you say. Eagles were actually briefly ahead, 27-26.
Just on that, yeah, can we? Can we, man?
Yeah.
No, on that, I think what happened was, again, I don't think he was particularly on London's scouting report. So basically, Taylor got something good. Basically, Taylor started attacking, and London were clearly aware that Taylor made a few shots earlier, made a few foul shots. So London kind of off the screen, they were kind of semi-doubling him, or they were staying with him a bit longer because they weren't respecting Canway, and Canway would just go to the front of the rim. So 3 times Canway got to the front of the rim, and Taylor was able to find him with great passes, which kind of gave Newcastle just that little bit of interior scoring, which they really needed, and forced London to call a timeout.
Mm.
And Canway got an offensive rebound, threw it out to Jack for a three. And that was a timeout. So at that point, at that point, it was a weird game.
Mm.
I still
That,
couldn't think that's a win, but it was only
that was what put them 27-26 ahead. But most of the second quarter is actually London sort of 5 or 6 points ahead. Half time, Eagles were 18 of 19 from the free throw line, 18 of their 41 points, which I did look up at the time, and there was only one game where somebody had managed that level of production from the free throw line versus their overall total. And
obviously
obviously they
London.
didn't in the
I
end.
mean, I don't know. You have to. I haven't watched this game back. I couldn't find it on television.
No,
Yeah,
it wasn't on design. For some reason, the highlights were
but so I haven't watched
worth
it
it.
back.
Yeah.
I think London was struggling a little bit with, obviously they're playing 2 different competitions, the physicality that's allowable, and obviously newish refs as well, or be new old refs, put it that way.
Mm.
And they got into team fouls,
Mm.
both in second and third quarter, which
2 minutes into the quarter, weren't they?
yeah, exactly, which kind of got Newcastle kind of going a bit. But I mean, it's difficult because when I'm watching this stuff that's going on, you always are you're watching with home fan eyes. So the calls that you in your favour you ignore, and the calls that are against you you complain about. So it's not
Mm,
a balanced thing. But I didn't see that much for them to complain about. There was quite a lot of physicality in the game.
yeah.
So
And
um,
let's be fair, they've been in foul trouble in most of the games they've
yeah,
played
you know,
SLB.
and they're deep. They're deep, so
Yeah.
they can do that.
So they can do
28
that, yeah.
fouls and no one fouled out. So
Yeah.
so they can kind of do it. So I wouldn't say that Newcastle got bailed out by much. I honestly haven't watched the game back, so I don't know
Mm,
for sure.
mm,
But yeah, it became one of those strange games where Newcastle were kind of scoring in spurts of individual skills and playing some decent defense, and London were really dependent on who was in the game.
mm.
You know.
Well, going back to the starting five at the start of the second half, they scored the first 9 points of the second half to lead 41-53. Bit of a hoo-ha in the middle of the third quarter. This is where I wanted to watch it back, but obviously
Yeah,
the zone
I'm
didn't have it.
exactly the same.
I literally went back. I went back 3 times to check it. It was still even this morning not there. And obviously, this is the sort of thing that Synergy cuts out in their edit.
Yeah.
But basically, Tariq Phillip got a technical on his way out of the game, arguing a non-call against him at the other end of the floor. And then during the foul shots, there was another technical given to him when he was on the bench, and you could see Coach Sabonis pleading that should be on me because obviously he thought the first one, he must have thought the first one was on Phillip, and he'd have been disqualified if they were both on the player. But obviously they're both on the coach. So it's actually him that was on the brink and not Philip, which led to a funny moment. I don't know you would have seen it, but because it cut
Sit
to the
down.
camera, yeah, right near the end of the game, they'd all jumped up for something or other, a call, and then he turned around, no, sit down, because obviously he's on two technicals and one more bench technical, and he would go, and there was
Yeah,
some
well,
sheepish looking looks on the
did you
London
see?
bench.
Did you see? Did the zone show you what happened for Philip to get the technical on the way out?
I didn't know. That's why I wanted to go back.
Right.
If it was,
Yeah.
I missed it first time. That's why I
Well,
was
okay, it was
wanting
very
to look back.
interesting because I thought I'd like to watch it back, but I think he was a little lucky. I'll tell you what happened. He was ticking
Mm,
because he'd not got a call. He then missed a layup. He'd then gone. He then had Jonathan Williams absolutely ram him into the baseline from his own player, ram
mm,
him into the baseline from behind on an offensive rebound. So he literally knocked out the court by his own player, and so you could see he was ticking. So Sabonis subs him out, but he does what I would call the Anthony Gordon walk.
mm,
Right? I mean, it to the point whereby he is, he's walking as in such a desultorily slow way across
mm,
the court. I mean, absolutely. Um, and Stutel's like this saying, "What can we not put the ball in the bounds? What's going on?" They got six guys on the court because the other guy's already in there. They're ready to play, and he's really, walking over towards that corner of Eagle fans on the bench, or giving them some, and just kind of dredging it out like a footballer, and it was walking across the pitch
mm.
in the third minute of extra time when you win a 1-0. There is then, and I'm going to put this as neutrally as I can, there is contact between him and the referee.
Oh, right. I definitely didn't see that.
No, well, there is contact between him and the referee, and the reason I put it neutrally is I caught the contact, but I think the ref may have ushered him towards the bench. I'm not sure if he touched him, but he may have definitely have ushered him towards the bench. I think he probably did touch him because what Philip then did was he touched the ref probably more than touched. He laid hands on the waist of the ref as if to say, "Don't touch me," not as if
Mm,
to say, "Okay," right?
mm,
And that was in the ref. It was immediate tech. It wasn't a wait.
mm.
As soon as he touched me,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what? Immediate. It wasn't even thought, right? And I'd like to see it. The reason I would like to see it back because my initial thought was you could get thrown out for that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You get because if you let, I always thought that laying hands on the ref would be
yeah, yeah.
was a disqualification. Now the only mitigation would have been if the ref had touched him first.
First, yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if that happened. And Philip isn't. I mean, Philip's got a fuse.
Yeah.
He isn't somebody I would, who you would think, would be, that crack as to do that without any reason. So I think it was probably an instinctive reaction. I think that's probably why he got a technical. But my initial thought was, "Ooh," I
Mm,
saw good hands. I saw the way ref acted. I thought that's if you lay hands on the referee, it's a disqualification.
mm,
So anyway, so that's what happened. Then he went to the bench and he was still chuntering and whatever, and that was the end of him for the game.
Mm.
Yeah, I actually went to try and find that as well.
Yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah. There
so we
was.
can't, so I'm not going to condemn him, but on what, it was definitely technical for hands on the ref.
Mm.
Which again, it kind of spurred on the crowd. The crowd got into it. It was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Obviously,
And all
and we
those
have
free
more.
throws allowed Newcastle to score 8 in a row and cut it to a 3-point game at
Yeah, we had
51-54.
kind of, it was nice in the arena, we had the kind of the vibes of last year's playoff game, the second leg of the playoffs where, London should have beaten Newcastle, Newcastle beat them. So we have that kind of little underdog vibe now, North v
Mm.
South, all that type of stuff going on with the Lions. So, it is kind of a marquee game. And
Mm.
it was good that the Eagles players, despite the fact they could have been blown out, kind of stood up to it and stayed in the game to keep the crowd interested. But London, I mean, London have, their talent. I mean, McGusty really took over a little bit. That's where Newcastle
Mm.
really missed water, but they needed someone to defend them. And what McGusty would do is he was on 3 or 4 consecutive possessions. They would just clear out for him, and
Yeah.
they would set a screen with whoever he wanted to have guarding him. So occasionally it was Taylor, who he thought was too small to guard him. Then they would set a screen and have Reed switch onto him, and Reed was too big to guard him. And he would get to, or Smith, and he would get to the rim. And it made for a game with very strange stats because there are very few assists in this game.
Mm.
Very few three-point attempts. There's like 25 three-point attempts for both teams combined. That's a quarter of basketball in Ellesmere Port.
It is. Yeah, yeah.
And that all came because the teams weren't getting in rotation. Everyone was switching. It was picking mismatches, and no one was helping off shooters. So basically, it becomes kind of a one-on-one game. And London's talent, McGusty in particular, really impressed me with his size. And I don't think Newcastle defended him as well as they could have in keeping him from the rim. And there were a few balls which bounced around, and Scott got his hands on them and
Mm.
made layups. And just because he's bigger and active. And it just you never felt that, even with the way that Taylor was playing. And Taylor had a breakout game for Newcastle.
Mm.
He had a game I wasn't even sure he was capable of having, to be honest. But he was far more under control. He shot far less long twos. And even with him kind of finding the way back in, scoring occasionally, you never quite got the impression that Newcastle had quite enough scoring.
No, it was Scott and McGusty pushed an 11-5 start. They got out to 67-75, and that was basically the cushion they
It was a
maintained to the
two-shot
end.
game with a minute to go, but it wasn't a two with a minute and a half to go, but it wasn't a two-shot game that you thought was a two-shot game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How, there was a comfort level to it. But it was an entertaining game. It was a
Mm.
thoroughly entertaining game. I like watching London because, they have, high-level talent there. It's always fun watching, high-level talent and watching how teams with probably a little bit less physicality can compete with them.
Mm.
And I thought Newcastle did a pretty good job of staying with them, particularly without Ward Hibbert, who's probably their defensive leader. Um, and neither team turned the ball over much. It was just a competitive, well played game, and London seemed to be in that kind of. Oh, and Dean Williams can jump.
Mm.
London seemed to be in that kind of area whereby they might just be too good for the rest of us, but not quite good enough for anybody in Europe.
Mm.
Um, and when you look at them, what they've got is they've got kind of the next tranche of SLB British players kind of above you kind of Ward Hibberts and Whelans. They've gone for the next tranche, which is Rye, Dean Williams, who's coming out, I think, German Pro A. Obviously Adamu, GB International, Ethan Price, who's 6'10", coming out of college in America. Um, Tariq Phillip, obviously. So it's got that kind of next level of if I can put it this way, salary bracket of
Mm.
players,
Mm.
and gone and got them all. Now, to be fair, given that they're only playing 4 imports, and the Lithuanian dude hardly played, and really could have come out of a factory in Lithuania, the way
Mm.
shooting quicker. So they're basically playing 3 imports. So we can't really argue about their impact on the sport. They're only playing 4 imports because of the rules, which are that if you've got a budget of over 800,000, then you only get 4 imports.
Mm.
But that means we have got British players who are playing meaningful minutes for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm not down on them at all. Actually, I just think they need an upgrade, a little bit of an upgrade for the European games.
Yeah.
They
And
don't.
obviously Reynolds is a massive miss for
Reynolds is
players.
massive, but they don't have a Matt Morgan, do they? And they
No,
don't have Sam Decker.
no. But
You know, and
then
if you play,
Matt Morgan's playing EuroLeague now, so
and if you're playing high, but what point I'm making is if you want to play
mm.
high level Euro Cup,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
those are the guys that you need.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
because that's how you're going to get that. So they're going to take some beatings probably in
Mm.
Europe. That might not,
I
so
think
how
they play Trento next, so
yeah,
they've got to have that one circled.
so how well they stay together will be the big thing for them. If
Yeah.
they stay together, because last year they didn't, they fell apart at the end, and they didn't celebrate the league, and then yeah, okay, Newcastle beat them in the playoff semi, but they beat them twice. That Newcastle
Mm,
team, which was shorn of two or three players, beat them home and away,
mm,
right, and that should not have happened.
no.
They weren't together at that point.
Rashawn Taylor, 32 points, 13 of 14 free throws. Maceo Jack, 17 points, 7 of 7 free throws. Eagles
Better,
overall.
Maceo. That's better, Maceo.
Yeah. He's
What
still
we
got a
signed
long
up
way to get to
for. About
93.
time.
Eagles overall were 23 of 56 from field goals and 27 of 32 from free throws.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, that is only, by the way, the 17th time in 18 seasons that Newcastle have had two players combined for 63.6% or more of their overall total.
It's a nice stat, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Uh, Scott, 18 points, 8 of 12 shooting, 7 rebounds. McGusty, 5 of 8 shooting, 14 points. Adamu, 11 points and 5 assists.
Yeah.
Let's go to Saturday. Surrey 89ers 85. Caledonia Gladiators 100. Kuntz was out with a back injury.
I think
Ned,
they were picking up all those turnovers last week.
probably.
Sorry, guys. It's a cheap shot, but
Yeah.
that's what we're here for.
Ned us into the starters. It was 10-10 after 7 minutes, and then Caledonia had a 16-2 run over the first quarter break to lead 14 to 30, 3 minutes into the second quarter.
Yes, I think Nedas has bulked up, don't you? He
Mm.
looks bigger and stronger, which is what professional basketball does for you. It gives you a chance to, commit your whole time to being a pro and getting bigger. Yeah, we're beginning to wonder whether game one was a flash in the pan, aren't we?
Mm.
Um, I was dis. I don't think either of these teams will be in the high level of defensive rankings this season.
Mm.
On what I've seen so far. Um, Caledonia clearly made an effort because they were pretty rank and awful in Cheshire. So they clearly made an effort to tidy things up defensively. And for the first probably quarter and a half, they did that. The roll coverage was better. I think they maybe dropped off a little bit as the game went on, but that's possibly because Surrey were playing a bit faster because they were behind. So give them maybe a little bit of credit. But if Caledonia hold people to 85, they've got a good chance of winning.
Mm.
Because they've got a team of scorers. Alan and Ragsdale are pure scorers.
Mm.
They are just pure scorers. Um, and they have enough ball movement and kind of enough pleasing offensive movements to get good shots. And it's more important, the most important thing is you're getting good shots for people. Good shots are not just you open, it's for the right people shooting in the right spots at the right time.
Yeah.
So a good shot for Ragsdale is not a good shot for Toto.
Mm.
And I thought, sorry, for the second time, I didn't think they really stuck to much of a scouting report. I think they're in their own heads a little bit at the moment, offensively. I think that's impacting on their defense, and didn't defend Caledonia the way you have to, which is if you think you're guarding Ragsdale on the 3-point line on the wing and you're just standing in front of him, you're not guarding him.
Mm.
You've got to be up there. You've got to be forcing him to dribble. You've got to make people do things that make them uncomfortable. And I didn't think at any point in time during the game that Surrey really did that. And that right counts as well, obviously, right to scorer too.
Mm.
So that's three of them. In relation to Surrey, Polite can clearly play, and he had a bit of ticker about him in this game, and brought them back to a certain degree. Lily does a lot of dribbling before he gets his shots off. He's not. It's a bit disconcerting because last 4 or 5 years they have run some really pretty offense.
Mm.
Basically, since Lloyd's been there, they run some really pretty offense. They get good shots. They have good spacing. You don't think that Graham or Ling at the moment is a like for like with a Delican, which
No.
hurts them. And instead of the kind of the scorers, the guys like Good and Ray and James who knew their game and knew where they had to get the ball to. I'm not sure you see that with these guys at the moment. Now it's very early. As I say, Lily does a lot of dribbling. He can clearly shoot the heck out of the ball, but they're not getting kind of that kind of nice stuff in the flow of the offense, and they're not getting that much out of the pick and roll game, which is basically been a staple of what they were doing. And a lot of that is because, Graham is not really that comfortable handling in the screen roll on the short roll, which is when you kind of roll halfway at the basket, you catch the ball and you move it. And Ling is obviously Ling's just going to roll to the rim and try and dunk it.
Mm.
So they've got some work to do. But in relation to the game, once Caledonia broke it up and down, that was
That was
it.
basically it. Yeah, yeah. I've literally written, and that was basically it. Surrey did have you mentioned Polite. They did have a 15-3 spell with him scoring early in the fourth quarter, cut it to 7, but then Wright, Spielman, Holland threes, and it was back to double
No, yeah,
figures
and
pretty quick.
that's what killed me because I'm telling you that you cannot. Sorry, Spielman's the other guy.
Mm,
I'm forgetting that's four scorers, right? They are four, four guys who I would describe. Wright is 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 competitive and gets his hand in. I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying they don't play defense, right? But there are four guys who you would Spielman, Wright, Ragsdale, and Allen. There are four guys whose primary, I would say, primary skill is putting the ball in the basket,
mm,
right? And when they got down to 7 and the crowd is going, right, they gave up basically an uncontested three on the wing to right, which wasn't off any action.
mm,
It wasn't off any rotation. It was just, I'm standing in front of him, I'm defending him. Well, Ethan Wright just says, "Oh, I had enough of this. We're not losing this game. You're going to give me that shot. I'm going to knock it down." And then next time up, Jet Spielman, I think it was Small made a pretty average attempt to close it to close him out on a very mini pick and pop. And Spielman just stood there and just drained it, and that's what he does.
mm,
And so 7 points becomes 13 points. And those two defensive possessions sum them up.
mm,
Summed up what I've seen over 3 games, which is you have to be committed to taking away something, and we've said it before, we've said it probably every week, as a matter of course now, how you defend the 3-point line against shooters impacts your success.
mm.
They didn't defend the 3-point line very well in this game at all. You
No.
have to have that urgency. And it's the hardest thing to do early in the season because it means you've got to trust your mate. Because to defend the 3-point line, you've got to get out there and you've got to risk someone's going to blow past you. And if they blow past you, you've got to trust that there's somebody behind you to defend them. And that trust takes time to build up. But there are certain guys it's a non-negotiable for.
Mm, mm,
Ragsdale is non-negotiable, right? He is not getting any space at all when he should. He is going to have to dribble and make tough 2-point shots. If he makes me, beats you. Right? Pretty similar. And it didn't do that. So, yeah, a little bit fearful for Surrey. They've had 3 home games, haven't been on the road yet. Obviously, they played only had 4 imports in this game with Kuntz out. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to bring in anybody or make any changes because we're getting to that point of the season now whereby kind of cards are on the table and every coach has to look at his roster and most of the players on the league, and for people who don't know, will have clauses in their contract which basically say that the contracts are guaranteed after normally 8 games
mm,
or a certain period of days. And that means that coaches have to start making decisions and they have to start projecting forward and thinking, is this team got the personnel that I want to get to where we want to be?
mm,
And that's the way the world's a professional basketball player. Obviously, it's not like football whereby you sign your 5-year Jack Rodwell contract at Sunderland at 30,000 a week and never play again and you get paid up. It doesn't happen. All these guys are out there playing for their livelihoods.
mm, mm.
And coaches are also coaching for their livelihoods. So
Yeah, yeah.
really is it's a bit manic at the minute. So you've got, I think Leicester released Mitchell, and from what I've read, and wouldn't be surprised if a few other people were getting released as well in the near future.
There was something around Shelton as well.
I haven't seen that. I haven't
Mm.
been received that officially, but there's apparently some posts on Instagram from his wife.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what it's, I mean, I'll stay away from that.
yeah. Polite, 25 points and 6 assists. Lily, 17 points. Small, 16 points and 8 rebounds. Allen, 7 of 11 shooting, 21 points and 7 rebounds. Wright was 4 of 7 for 3 for 17 points. Ragsdale was 6 of 10 shooting for 15 points. And they were 14 of 21 for 3, to your point.
Yeah, 14 of 21. That just can't happen. I mean, I look at the stats in that game. I think they shot 63, 66, 85%.
Mm,
That's,
mm,
I mean, they're just obscene numbers, literally horrific numbers to give up, and to be that close in the game, actually, at that point. I actually thought Caledonia made a couple of adjustments as well. Alan, in particular, there was a little bit more times where the ball went through his hands and came out.
mm,
So it wasn't just a question of give the ball to Kevin and watch him work. He was there was a little bit more dribble handoff, a little bit more movement. So he was 21 points, but how many shots did he have?
11.
11. In the first couple of games, he had 11 in the first half.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought there was a little bit more balance to their offense. Their issue is going to be defense all the way through. They don't, it- uh, even Fagbenley, should be a stopper. I'm not sure he is, and he's not in the best offensive unit. So they're going to have to find a way to defend with their scorers. And they might end up throwing a lot of zone out there or junk defenses or stuff like that. Or it might just be, and the rebound as well, because Surrey had 20 offensive rebounds in this game.
Mm,
To score only 18 points off 20 offensive rebounds. But that's why the game stayed close, because they had 20-second shots. And that's where Caledonia's heel is at the minute. They're going to really have to work hard to do that, because I don't think it's natural to the team that they've got. But they are going to score. No question. They're going to score 94 against Newcastle, 100 against Cheshire, 100 in Surrey. They're going to score the ball,
mm,
even when teams get used to them. The skill those guys are so comfortable. You see how comfortable they are scoring the ball individually, that no one's going to shut them down.
mm. So
So,
this is where I have to fess up to the audience. I had on Friday a really good idea. I text Dave. I said, Dave, there's only 3 games. Do you want to spend Sunday morning? We'll quickly do the first 2, and then bang 10 minutes out when I get back from Cheshire on Sunday night. What could possibly go wrong with
yeah.
that? And then, in the meantime, it appears that Hoops Fix have broken the story that Chris Grant has resigned as chair of BBF, and obviously we had all the drama at Cheshire as well. But let's start with the BBF thing. Dave, this morning, or 20 minutes ago, probably in listening terms, you said our erstwhile chair of the BBF, and you're very prescient to do so.
Oh dear, must have been. Well, we're working from his message and from the various rumors that have been going around. There's no secret there have been rumors
Mm,
around about it. So, but it was more the wording, and I don't believe rumors. It's what people say and do that makes a
yeah.
difference. And the tweet that the post that we mentioned before, the Machiavelli post, kind of summed up the fact that he wasn't long for the job. Which again, from a personal perspective, rather, it doesn't please me, but it satisfies me, because I said it was
Mm,
untenable 7 months ago,
yeah.
and he shouldn't have been in there that long. And everything that's happened since has made things worse. Um,
Presumably, the thing that's come to a head is what are we 6 weeks? 6 weeks from now, 27th of November, the men's team is supposed to be playing
yeah.
Lithuania somewhere in this country. At the moment, we have no venue, and presumably that's been a challenge. And I would imagine, in whatever FIBA have said in their task force, is thou shalt play that game.
Well, yeah, you would think that actually that's a pretty safe thing. What an overall indictment though that is,
Yeah,
eh?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can't sell tickets for Lithuania. It's like, you
Well,
know,
I should imagine they could sell tickets. It's could they get a venue?
but you can't get a venue that can
Mm,
put you in a financial position to run a program, and you've had months and months and months to do it, and you haven't done anything to support it. I mean, it is the equivalent of printing money, that game.
mm, mm,
And if you don't kind your eyes don't light up when you get the draw, and you're not thinking what we're going to do to maximize this,
mm,
then you shouldn't be in the job. And it's not like they're short of people who are technically in the job, given that the board consists of a very long table with at least 12 seats around it.
mm, mm.
Um, so that might have been a trigger to it all. And now the press release that's come out from BBF, I'm
Oh,
afraid.
I've not seen the press release, Dave. There's been
Oh,
a
you're not
press
seeing it.
release.
Well, I'm afraid. I mean, don't waste your time, because we all remember. Well, those of us with certain vintage remember Saddam Hussein and Comical Ali.
There's nothing to
There's
see
nothing
here.
to see here. The burning buildings were burning. Nothing to see. Nothing's happening. Whatever. Well, according to the BBF press release, hastily put out 3 hours after Sam had broken the story on Hoops Fix, Chris Grant's resigned for personal reasons, unspecified.
Mm,
They are personal reasons, and obviously has our sympathy for that.
mm,
Allow me to be skeptical
yeah.
that would happen at this point for that reason. And I'll say no more than that, because I don't know, so but it's wrong.
Mm,
But I'm not at this moment inclined to take generalizations on trust from somebody who's quoted Machiavelli on Friday.
yeah.
Um, and then basically we have two quotes from one is from the interim chairman, lady by the name of Grace Jacker, and the second from lady by the name of Sadie Mason. basically saying what a wonderful job he's done over the
Mm,
past 3 years and failing to mention the gigantic herd of elephants in the room
mm, mm,
of the fact that we are currently in a situation where the governing body is in the High Court as a result of its behaviour towards its constituent professional clubs.
yeah.
I'm afraid it really doesn't augur particularly well in relation to how things are moving forward. My suspicion, it's no more than a suspicion, is that the reason Chris Grant has resigned is because he's been pushed. Don't know by
Mm,
who. Be it
no.
FIBA, be it government, whatever, no idea. Because his behaviour over the past 6 months has not been indicative of somebody who would release his grip on the pool.
Mm,
And if he has been pushed, that would suggest that it is in the. So I'm stretching this here.
mm,
That would then suggest that's something to do in relation to the way that the sport has been governed. And if that is something to do with the way that the sport has been governed, then we can't just have the people who are sitting there watching him do it with responsibility of oversight turning around and saying, "What a wonderful job you've done. Let's just move on as if nothing's happened."
yeah, yeah.
That just to me is
Now,
indefensible.
I agree with everything you just said there, and I would have also drawn up the short list of those two constituents doing the pushing, probably both of them, to be honest with you,
Mm.
a hand each. I suppose if I was to play devil's advocate, I'd suggest you have to in the immediate hours, you have to
Yeah,
put somebody in and say everything's okay, we're going to carry on. But I would imagine that somewhere along the line there will be a large broom.
you would hope so. And I also understand that they have to put a statement out, and I'm not necessarily against, trying to say something nice.
Mm,
Because ultimately these are voluntary posts, whatever the motivation of the people who are involved, whether it's for their own good or for others' good, they are voluntary posts. So I'm sure it's quite right that this is spent a substantial amount of time
mm,
of Mr. Grant's life in trying to figure this out that he probably hasn't been particularly well remunerated for, the albeit it goes on the CV. That's all I
mm,
can say. And we all know what the merry-go-round of administrators in this sports administrators in this country is all about. You
mm,
go from one job to another job to another job to another job, and whatever scorched earth you leave at one job, you then move to another job.
mm,
What basketball has failed to do over the years and continues to, and it's been let down a little bit by government in relation to this. It's probably been a letdown internally as well to a certain degree. It's failed to get um, the right people setting the
I think you're
policy
being a bit too
properly.
kind there because I think actually that it's been failed by government agencies, put it that way, in terms of that we've had people appointed to it who have no history or background. And the reality is, if we were any other country in the world, our chair would be Kieran Achara, Dan Clark, Joey Leadham, somebody of that ilk, because that's what happens. That's everywhere
Steve
you
Nelson.
go, is a former player
Yeah.
becomes. I mean, isn't that the point of the FIBA, whatever it is, timeout program or something that the retired internationals go on, is to give them the training to end up in positions like that,
Yeah.
and I don't think UK sport would or has ever allowed us in the past to appoint somebody of that ilk. It's always got to be somebody from cycling, somebody from rowing, somebody from this, somebody from that. It's always got to be one of our proven administrators from somewhere else rather than you can't do it yourself for whatever reason.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely 100%. Um, and the policy keeps on failing. One of the things that I quite took great kind of entertainment from in the press release was the suggestion that things have moved on fantastically in the past 3 years.
Mm,
Firstly, because I think the two people who were quoted were actually on the board in the period of time before the last 3 years,
mm,
right? So they would be in there previously. But secondly, remember 3 years ago we were being run by a disgraced athletics coach
yeah.
by the name of Minicello, who's now banned for life for bullying, right? So if things haven't moved on from that, then goodness knows what they've been doing. That's like, saying that we've climbed out of the gutter and we're kind of just reaching the sewers, or
Mm,
climbed out of the sewers and reaching the gutter. It's not great.
It's not great, and the other side of it is it's easy to sort of get lost in an argument between BBF and SLB. But if you look at the top division men, second division men, top division women, the nine SLB clubs amount to it's something like 18 out of the how many clubs are there? 32,
Yeah,
31,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
Uh, of the teams in those leagues, more than half of them are related to the businesses that you're trying to put out of business. I mean, when you frame it, you'd essentially wipe out. Okay, you'd still have a handful of teams left on the women's side, and you'd have most of the teams left on the division on the championship side. But you're still the whole thing made zero sense from any perspective.
yeah. And that's without even knowing the specific details of a High Court legal claim,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which wouldn't have been brought if it wasn't. I'll be blunt. It wouldn't have been brought if it wasn't something of a slam dunk.
Mm,
Because you know, the owners of the SLB clubs aren't mad. They're not going to throw lots of money at a high court case and expensive lawyers if they've not been told by those very expensive lawyers that they have a very, very good chance of winning.
mm,
And everything I know about what's gone on over the past 7 months, or even 12 months, but certainly since the Glickman license was kind of approved in on the nod, is that everything that they've done is driven the coach and horses through the appropriate law.
mm,
And so yeah, the fact that you can get yourself into a high court legal battle with basically your own sport
mm,
is just self-disqualifying. And the fact that there are people who've waved it through who still have power is also self-disqualifying.
mm,
And I don't even, to be frank, Dan, I don't even care, even if they were to win, right? It would still be disqualifying
mm,
because what the job is it needs a conciliator. It does not need a tactician.
mm,
Right? It needs someone to bring people together as opposed to pulling them apart. It's a conversation that's really gained some traction in this country recently. Gary Neville's been talking about it. All these ridiculous flags which are designed to serve a political purpose, all of that stuff. It's all designed to pull people apart.
mm,
And unfortunately, what we've seen in the basketball world is the same.
mm.
Um, the division has been, and of course, and it's all dressed up as, would you believe it? The reformer,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
per his
yeah,
Machiavellian tweet.
yeah, yeah.
You may as well, dear me, he'll be with next to Rupert Lowe and Zia Youssef next. The reformer's not trusted. The reformer's not trusted because there are a lot of things that work as well as they can, or nearly as well as they can already in this country that people don't understand and don't realize and don't appreciate, just like they didn't appreciate the benefits of being in Europe in 2016. And I'm going on a bit of a rant here,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they didn't appreciate it because it wasn't put across, because people seem to be of the mentality that things cannot get worse, they can only get better. We're entitled to this, that, and the other. And what we've found out over the past 10 years is actually, yeah, you can lose 4 billion or 4% of your GDP if you decide to put up a trade barrier within the next door pit neighbours. Now, I'm going
yeah.
beyond the remit of basketball, of
You've
course.
gone off on a
Of
rant
course,
there.
but
Yeah,
the suggest yeah, I've gone off on one, but the
yeah,
suggestion is from Chris Grant has been over the past 6 months
yeah.
and from his message and his Machiavelli tweet
Mm.
is to say beware that people are too scared to be reformed. They don't have
Yeah,
the
yeah,
courage,
yeah,
all
yeah.
this stuff, and that I'm afraid is for a sport which operates under the narrowest of margins and the slimmest of threads, and it's
Mm,
basically at the whim of people who are running clubs. Because if they don't run the clubs, in reality, we don't have a professional sport worthy of the name.
mm,
To start talking about, reformers and lukewarm support from others,
mm.
and the fact that they're scared of reform, all that stuff, it's just ignorant. It's ignorant
I
nonsense.
go back to the point I made this morning, which was the the people. I forget the two groups now that there were in the
Yeah.
quote, but both those groups were the same people,
Yeah.
and it was like you've missed the point because both those groups were the same people. They cannot
Yeah.
be opposing. They can't be on the opposite
They were
side. They can be.
the people who were gained to who gained from the status quo
Yeah.
the people who gained would have gained from the change. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
yeah,
He never got that.
no,
It was wedge politics, and then it was wedge politics with extra divisiveness thrown in. Then it was throwing every dirty trick in the book in relation to licenses and referees and governing body endorsements and everything like that, all while subject to a massive conflict of interest. With that conflict of interest being that you're given a license to somebody which basically you told was exclusive.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so you know how he managed to survive this long is probably a testament to the thickness of his skin
yeah.
and also the inadequacy of his board.
Mm.
Let's be honest. Oh,
There's also
maybe not.
an element I would suggest, and full disclosure, I've not been a massive fan of UK sport for at least 12 years, 13 years.
Yeah,
Um, the Probably more than that. It's also a massive failure on the behalf of the system, if you like,
yeah.
whether that's DCMS, whether that's UK sport, whether that's whatever, is you've allowed this to go on and on and on and on rather than solving the issue 6 months ago, and then we wouldn't have the High Court thing. We wouldn't be wasting money on fancy lawyers in Manchester or wherever they're based.
You know, in
And
that,
and and,
yeah,
it's sort of an indictment on the system that this can happen. And let's be honest, it's not out of character. We've seen issues in lots of sports across this country over a decade or more. We've seen financial meltdowns. We've seen inappropriate behaviour. We've seen this, that, and the other. Where, in essence, it's either a failure of governance from above, or it's not. It's almost like the focus is such that it brings out this behaviour. Put it that way.
yeah. Well, yeah, and they have. I'm afraid they're quite happy. Yeah, quite happy to set the mat to strike the match, but then run
Mm.
away from the fire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know that.
And there's also an element of it's only basketball, doesn't matter.
Well, that's the other thing. You know, that is the other thing. Well, you know, we can put somebody who's just done a different sport there, man. And the final thing, Dan, is that, you know, for all we talk about, I'm getting into social polemic here, I'm afraid.
Mm,
Um, you know, for all we talk about inclusivity and for all we talk about the nature of our sport with the socio-economic
mm,
position of our sport and those who play in it and those who are deprived the opportunity to play in it due to the lack of facilities, right? Um, London, UK sport, everywhere else, even many other areas of this country as well, are still basically run under the good chap system.
mm,
So if you're a good chap, you go to the right parties, you join the right club, you
mm,
speak to the right people, you've done the right non-profits, you've done, you know, you've glad-handed your way around, then you're a good chap, you'll get yourself a job. And when you're a good chap, and this is Yes Minister from 40 years ago in the episode about the Governor of the Bank of England
mm,
and Desmond Glasgow. Go back and watch it. He's a good chap.
mm,
Wouldn't do that. You good chaps don't do that. Good chaps don't tell another good chaps. When you're a good chap, those that put you in place, one, they're invested in you succeeding, so they're not going to immediately fight against you. And two, you're a good chap, so why would there be a problem? He's just
mm,
sorting out all these oiks in the countryside who are trying to cause problems, all these uppity Americans who are coming in
mm,
trying to take our sport. He's a good chap, he's one of us, he's not one of them.
mm,
And that's what comes out of 10 or 15 years of networking, of
mm,
all that type of stuff.
mm,
And they're the people you have to network with to get these jobs.
mm,
And that is the problem.
mm,
That is the problem. There is subset of um, a subset of career um, job seekers at the corporate level. You know, do you have board experience? The one question I was asked when I went for my interview at GB 2016, do you have board experience? Well, what's that mean?
mm.
It means I'll be saying, well, I've done a little bit here and a little bit there, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But do you
Board
know?
experience is essentially turning up to meetings, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, yeah, and who you
If
talk
we
to.
if we boil
Yeah,
it to
and
its
can we?
narrowest thing.
Because the concern is, if you put someone in who actually knows what they're talking about, they may do things that don't that wind people up. And I'm not talking. This isn't talking about me. This is talking about anybody. It's talking about Kieran or Dan or whoever. You know, this isn't a personal thing. I'm well past it, believe me. But if you put something in who knows something about it, they may not be a good chap, and they may just absolutely blow up the kind of the cozy corporate governance that is present.
Mm,
And therefore, the easiest thing is just to recycle people. And I'm sorry, but if you have been part of the board that has got us into this situation
mm,
whereby a High Court claim is being made to effectively bankrupt the National Federation, then just losing the head of the board
mm.
and moving the next one along, I'm afraid that does not do it. So this is obviously the revolution or evolution. This is off with all their heads, Marie
Yeah,
Antoinette,
yeah,
let them
yeah,
eat
yeah,
cake, all this
yeah.
stuff. But somebody has to say it.
Mm.
I don't mind saying it because I know it's never going to be me doing it, ultimately. And none of the SLB people can say it because they have to be a little bit more diplomatic about what's going on.
Yeah,
Because obviously we've all got that kind of placating Trump mentality, because ultimately where the power lies is where it lies.
yeah, yeah,
So if you've got to suck up to people, you've got to suck up to
yeah, yeah.
it isn't good enough. What I want to know is how we can have a situation, as you say, whereby we have a 12-person board, and we don't have a venue for a game against Lithuania in 6 weeks,
Yeah,
right? It is literally, they are the brewery,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
can't run the piss up.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
and
yeah.
and finally, I don't. Yeah, okay, I'm a little smile about this and a little giggle. That this has not come from a place of satisfaction. Right, please. I hope and nobody takes it as a kind of small me little sod thinks he's right here, blah blah. He thinks he can say it all, blah blah. It's not satisfying at all. It's absolutely outrageous,
Mm.
right? So really, the only reason I'm trying to come at it with a certain degree of humor is because without it, it's just anger, and anger is no
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
to
yeah,
listen to.
yeah, yeah.
No point. A polemic is all right, but it's just kind of old man shouting at cloud.
Yeah.
We just have to try and put this into some form of context, and the context is this has been mismanagement of a scale, probably not far from a governmental perspective. You've described other sports, etc. This it doesn't get much worse than this.
No, no.
I mean, the situation where the FIFA or FIBA are coming in and basically saying we might kick your teams out of Europe or we might close your league down. I
Mm.
mean, that's
Yeah.
that's pretty nuclear.
Pretty next level, isn't it?
Pretty next level. I mean,
When it
well,
comes
yeah, here we
to
go basketball. The
yeah,
odd problem here or there, but and if this happened in a different country, this happened in
yeah.
one of these kind of quote,
Or if it happened in this country to cricket, rugby, or football.
be hell on.
Mm.
Be hell on. But can you imagine if I'm in another country and we're looking down
Yeah,
on quote marks third world countries, can't
yeah,
we all get military government getting involved, all this type
yeah,
of stuff.
yeah.
Instead, it's just happening here due to all because of the good chap theory.
Mm.
Anyway, good game.
Anyway, we weren't that bit was completely unplanned and unscripted, and I was kind of hoping that this
Yeah,
final game would be less exciting than it was. No,
yeah.
obviously not in real time. But when it came back to, oh no, now I've got to write down what happened in the last 2 minutes
I've
of the
been through it. I've got, yeah.
I've got it. I've got it all. It also it helpfully allowed me to notice the difference in the 24-second violation because
Oh, you were right. I
I'd
actually
written
picked it up
down
just before you did.
30.2 just in case I needed it.
No, you were
So
right.
let's start at the beginning. Cheshire Phoenix 90, Sheffield Sharks 87. Deloach back for the Sharks. I know he didn't really go
Yeah,
anywhere,
yeah,
but obviously that injury last week. And then, but off the bench, and Ocharoba in the starters. Rideau back into the starters. Remember, he came off the bench 2 weeks ago,
yeah.
but two early fouls, so he wasn't on the court for very long. Not a lot in it really until when Zona came in and got 5 quick points
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
gave
His
Nix the
owner's kind
lead.
of the next stretch guy. Yeah, the game was a little bit like two teams feeling each other out in the first half. I thought Cheshire played moderately harder in the first quarter, and I thought Sheffield in the run they played harder in the second quarter. And playing hard is it's almost an impossible concept to understand, but it's basically how many loose balls are you getting?
Mm,
I mean, basically, when Sheffield rebounded the ball in this game, if Sheffield had properly rebounded the ball in this game, it wouldn't have been that close.
no,
Cheshire beat them on, and the Tiber pointed out beforehand in the interview. Sheffield did not do a good job on the defensive glass, and Cheshire played with a ton of energy. And you know what it's like in that building. You know the speed they play at is captivating at times, and it kind of drags them along. But it's also a little bit sugar rushy, so they have peaks and troughs, and when Sheffield actually got round to doing the basics of basketball well in the second quarter, and what I mean by that is rebounding the ball on the defensive glass and getting back.
Mm,
They were able to turn the game around, and rather anticipate that they were going to go on and win it. To be honest.
mm. So let's go through some of the peaks and troughs. Rotino and Lee with threes in a 10-0 run to put Sheffield ahead 28-31. Then start of the second half,
Oh,
Cameron
before we
one.
get to that,
Yeah,
sorry, Dan. 18 minutes.
yeah.
18 minutes was the time it took to put up more threes than Newcastle and London had put together. That was when the 26 three-pointer went
Yeah,
after 18 minutes.
yeah,
So it's almost a different sport.
yeah.
Almost a different sport.
Well, there were five pretty quick at the start of the second half as well. They all went in. Cameron White, Brenchley, Rideau, Diggins. Cheshire's first five scores of the quarter were threes, and they jumped out to an 11-point lead.
Just on that, I don't know. I'd have to look back a little bit more because at some of the games, but the game they played at Newcastle 2 weeks ago, it was really noticeable that when they came out of the third quarter, they were putting it up. In
Mm,
particular, Skylar on the trail. So Skylar spends the first half kind of, ducking around, looking to the 3-point line, whatever. But in the second half, he came out and he was looking to be on the trail in the fast break. So Cheshire get the ball down the court quickly, and he's the one who's jogging up the court. We used to do it with Charles all the time. Jog up the court and get there when the ball's already been there. All the defense is sucked in, kicked out. The big guys under the basket, bang, Sky, and here's a three. And they put up a lot. They put up two or three. They did the same in Newcastle. I remember Stuart called a timeout early in the third quarter because he wasn't going to let them keep putting up the shots that they were putting up. And Sheffield, I think, were a little bit different because by my calculation, Cheshire put up probably 23 or 24 threes in the second half.
mm,
And Sheffield obviously decided, I say obviously, either didn't have the inclination or the will, or they were just basically saying, you can't keep making these shots, and they were just going from that perspective because they didn't really run them off the 3-point line. And you're right. I mean, it was, bang, 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 bang. And what they then did was get a little bit higher in their own supply,
mm.
and it was blank, 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 blank.
Yeah. During which time Sheffield scored 14 unanswered points to lead 64-67 with 38 seconds to go in the third quarter.
Yeah, that comes because Sheffield's looking after the defensive glass.
Mm, mm,
Because a lot of Cheshire's threes are in transition or off offensive rebounds.
mm,
There were a few that, Rideau flings the ball around the court and, particularly when they catch White or Policelli or Brenchley not being guarded quite the way they were, quite the way they should be, particularly by bigs, etc. But a lot of them is transition. And I think the first three possessions of the third quarter, the first three threes were, there was a Cameron corner three in transition. There was a White trail three in transition. And I think Brenchley had a three in transition. Somebody else had a three in transition as well. That's just dynamite. You can't beat Cheshire in that gym if you're giving them up.
mm,
So they kind of course corrected a little bit, Sheffield, and the shots stopped falling. So we had a regression to the mean in relation to Cheshire's 3-point shooting. Hold them to one shot, and Cheshire weren't able to regularly get stops on Sheffield. And again, they've got so much talent there. With Dirk, and Dirk is kind of the cherry on the icing on the cake.
mm, mm.
And he didn't have a great game, but he was always able to get what he wanted.
Yeah, so 73 to go. He'd had a bit of a rough shooting night, but then he scored 9 points to push them out to 77 85. 2:20 to go. Deloach tip in. It was 87-79. Looked like Sheffield were going to win at that point, and then the wheels sort of came off. 2:11 to go. White 3, 82-87.
That was a bad, just on that one, Dan. This is the thing. This is the thing with, that was on a, that was, I think that may have been on, there was a steal where I think Williams lost the ball and Rideau knocked I think Rideau
No,
fouled.
that's the next play. That's
Next
the
play,
next play.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that one was Brenchley circling around the perimeter, circling under the baseline and kicking it out to White. And White gets that shot off because he's got Deloach on the court. So you get Deloach's two at the other end on the offensive rebound previously. But Deloach is, like all big guys, It's a magnetic pull, and
mm,
it's pulled towards the basket. His job is to rebound, all of that stuff. So all he has to be is a half a step away from where he needs to be, and Branchley throws the ball to White, and White quick release with Deloach there. Deloach knows he's frustrated, but he didn't get there. It's a 3-point shot.
mm,
3-point shots, when you're into 8-point games with 2 minutes to go, the 3-point shot is an incredible weapon.
mm,
The 2-point shot really doesn't hurt you.
mm,
4 consecutive scores, it's tough just to tie the game.
mm.
Three threes with Cheshire on tough.
No,
You can't
no.
give up a three, and you certainly can't give up the three to him. So that was a defensive breakdown by them.
So this is the one you were just about to go
Yeah.
into. Williams loses the ball. Rideau does well to keep it in play, and Diggins gets a fast break dunk. 1:46 to go. It's the
Yeah, I
three-point
thought
game.
Rideau fouled him. Rideau plays on the edge of physicality anyway. Williams certainly thought he was fouled. I went back. I thought he had his arm on kind of his hip as he was driving. And the thing is, Rideau is such a strong guy that if his arm is there, it's going to have an impact.
Mm,
Um, but I think at the end of the game, the refs swallowed the whistle in this game,
mm.
for right or for wrong.
Then a Cameron steal. White misses a three. Offensive rebound. Branchley misses a three. 1:10 to go.
Yeah, but they were
Uh,
both scary plays for
yeah,
Sheffield
yeah, yeah.
because at that point, they can't be getting those shots.
Mm,
White can't be getting the shot because it was a good look,
mm,
and then they can't be getting offensive rebound.
mm,
And so they got lucky, but it had, as I say, it had vibes of what was coming.
yeah. Deloach misses a three at the end of the shot clock.
They
Uh,
ran nothing at that point, and
no.
and and that was the one where Williams was hurt. Yeah,
No, the Williams was hurt when it's the next play. It's on the timeout.
but I think that was the play where they threw the ball to Williams and they ended up throwing it back to Deloach, and Williams didn't look like he was moving right.
Oh yes, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Because I thought it was just before the timeout, but the timeout comes
Yeah,
from the
shortly after.
possession. Yeah,
So they
yeah.
end up with Deloach shooting a contested three. Now, when you've got I think Rideau did a great job in that play because he broke up the initial, maybe the next play. But anyway, when you've got all that talent on the court, and I think Williams was on the court. I think maybe Kern on the court with him, and Nixon and Chapman. You get Deloach, you're the biggest player of the game, and you've got Deloach putting up a three. Then something's not quite the way it should have been.
I think what happened was Dirk was out of the play because he was struggling with whatever he
Yeah,
was struggling with. And then they got late in the shot clock and they kicked it to Dirk. And he tried to do something, but he wasn't healthy enough to do it. And they only had 4 seconds. And that was the only thing left
yeah. I think
because
you're right.
Dirk would normally just
Made a
go and
play.
make a play.
I think you're right, and it brings a slightly bigger question for Sheffield moving forward. Basically, who is the guy?
Mm,
Because they have on that court, they had three guys who could comfortably be the guy on any team.
mm,
That's Nixon, Chapman, and Williams.
yeah.
Right? They have a fourth guy in Kern who thinks he should be the guy on any team
Mm,
because of the confidence he plays with and the fact that he knows he can score the ball. And then you've got Mervyn James to come back as well.
yeah, yeah.
So they that
Who took almost every last second shot for
yeah.
Surrey last year.
Sorry, last year. So, they have a little hierarchy thing to kind of figure out because Chapman kind of faded away from this game.
Mm,
And if you remember against Newcastle last week, Chapman took over the game.
mm,
Um, so that's for them going forward. They didn't really be particularly um, understanding where they wanted the ball to go at the end of the game.
mm.
And that possession was a bad possession, whether Turk
Mm.
was hurt or not. I think
Uh,
Nix was happy.
Cameron then slipped. He dove on the floor, held ball, possession arrow for Cheshire. So there's a timeout.
Yeah,
Then
Cheshire got a little bit fortunate there because it wasn't the smartest of plays by Cameron. They're down three. That's not where you want the ball, him attacking from the wing at that time. I like Cameron's game. He plays with intensity. He finishes around the rim. He moves out the ball. Plays defense. Um, he's an attacking, aggressive, competitive player. But I wouldn't be giving him the ball on the wing with 30 seconds to go down three to make a play one on one. So they got a jump ball out of it.
yeah, 34 seconds came out of a timeout. Um,
Couldn't enter it.
they were late on they couldn't get the pass in. Late on the getting the pass in. Lobbed it towards Diggins. Diggins and I think it was Kern wrapped the
Yeah.
ball up. but land out of bounds. And the ruling on that is if two players have their hands on the ball and one of them is out of bounds, it's a jump ball.
Jump ball.
Or it ought
Absolutely.
to be a jump ball. It's a possession arrow. So obviously the possession arrow is just flipped to Sheffield's way. So it's Sheffield's possession with
They called the
32.8
timeout,
seconds to
didn't
go.
they?
Hey?
They called the timeout, didn't they? At this
Uh,
point,
yes.
so
Yeah, I
it's
think so.
30.2. Yeah.
32.8. No, they didn't call a timeout here, I don't think.
Did they not?
32.8 because no, because Ben had just called a timeout just before. I don't think they
Right.
did.
Okay.
I didn't write down timeouts, so
I
if
have to
they
check
did,
that.
I
I thought,
can't remember.
anyway, right.
Because surely
Yeah,
you would advance. Oh no, maybe you don't want to advance the
that's
ball
what I'm
because there's
thinking. You
one.
know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
one of those difficult ones whether you would advance or not.
Mm.
In that situation, I thought they might
I,
have, but
I think you don't. I think you wouldn't advance the ball because neither team were in the penalty, so they're not incentivized to foul you, and they'll play defense for 14 seconds, and if you miss, you're in trouble.
they'll have longer. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you might be right.
What
Anyway,
you don't do in that situation is throw the ball towards your own basket, which is what
well, this
Chapman
was
did.
I mean, at this point, this was a little bit of Sheffield discombobulation, right? Because I watched this play back two or three times, and it's kind of a little bit kind of mind-boggling, really, what happens. Um, and it can happen because it's early season and people don't necessarily know, um, they don't necessarily know where their players are going to be. They won't have had those same units on the court the whole time. But basically, Chapman takes the ball out. Nixon's on the court to receive the basketball, but because obviously he's the only one in the near vicinity, right? That means that they can effectively double him. So Chapman's man and Nixon's man can prevent him getting the ball because obviously someone's got to guard the inbounder, right? So the next release guy is Dirk. Dirk's at the halfway line in front of the table. Yeah, he's come back in the game, having gone out with his.
I didn't think it was Dirk, but
It
anyway,
might not, but I thought it
yeah,
was Dirk. It might have been
yeah,
Kern.
yeah,
Maybe I didn't see.
yeah.
But I think it was Dirk because because he makes his movement. He's kind of face guarded by the Cheshire guy, and his movement looks impaired. He doesn't make a break to the ball, right? He moves gently towards the ball, but basically doesn't give Chapman anything to throw the ball forward to, right? So what you then have in every team has a release guy. You see it on the inbounds plays from the baseline where they can't get it in, they have to throw it over the top to the big guy who steps out at the top,
Mm,
right? That's the release guy. The release guy is William Lee.
mm,
Okay. Now what that means is he's further up the court to start with, but because he's being guarded by a big, in this case Skylar White, if he needs to come back to the basketball to receive it, he is going to be able to catch the basketball
mm,
because he's going to be able to run 20 feet and Skylar White's not going to be able to run 21 feet.
mm,
Skylar White's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 feet behind him. So he's always got to do, all Lee has to do is run in a diagonal towards Chapman, and the whole center of the court is wide open, catch the basketball, drop it off to Nixon or get fouled or whatever.
mm,
Instead, Lee, for reasons which are just boggle my mind, doesn't make any cut towards the basketball. He kind of jogs down the far sideline, right? Which allows White to shoot the gap. So because suddenly instead of going straight towards the ball, that means that the only pass Chapman has, because Dirk or whoever it is at the table isn't open, Nixon is double teamed. The only pass he has is Lee, who is in no position to receive the basketball. He should have been receiving it at the top of the center circle
mm,
in his half. You freeze frame it, see him, it's a V cut, straight to the basketball, catch it, be fouled, easy.
mm,
And he moved towards the ball like someone who didn't want to catch the ball, or just mentally fatigued or whatever. He didn't want to be fouled, didn't want to be whatever it was. So that means that Chapman does the worst of both things, which is throw the ball. The only guy he can see who's open, but is under his own basket, and it's actually worse than under his own basket. He's past his own basket.
mm,
He's literally on the far end of the court, the far side of the court. So and White's in between them. Um, just an absolute abortion of a play, just from a beginning to end. For veteran players, and it's not the coach, it's the players. For veteran players, they have to be smarter than that.
mm.
They have to be able to see that. So White gets a touch on the basketball. It bounces back. Cameron catches it. Chapman's desperate to make up for his mistake. And of course, Chapman could have just thrown it against one of the Cheshire guys' legs, which would have been the best.
Yeah, yeah.
Chapman, desperate to make up for it, jumps in the air. Cameron makes a smart, heady play, goes under the basket, gets the and one. You know, and
So
and I came out with kind of cold sweats thinking about Nick Timberlake.
Yeah, indeed. 30.2 seconds, that's important.
It is,
Left
yeah.
in the game at 87-87. End of the shot clock. Kern sort of loses the ball up in the air, shot clock violation, but the clock doesn't stop till because it went up in the air, it's all a bit random. And the clock stopped at 4 seconds, and Ben calls a
Uh,
timeout. And to be fair to the Cheshire coaching staff, they were out there saying, shouldn't it be 5 seconds? Shouldn't it be whatever? And of course, it should have been 6.2 seconds.
yeah, two things about that. I mean, I'm not sure that White didn't foul him, if I'm honest. I couldn't. I watched it back on the video, and it's a bad look on the video. But as Kern crosses White over, his arm comes out, and there's a little bit about the other arm on the other side. I don't know what happened with the strong side arm. You couldn't see it. But what White did very well was if he did have his arm in, he got it out very quickly.
Mm,
His hands were straight up. But Kern looked like he thought he'd been fouled. But going one on one at White isn't the smartest thing in that situation. He's not the guy.
mm,
I've been watching this guy for 3 or 4 years now. He's not the guy you go one on one on
mm,
because he moves his feet and he's not dumb and he's got a big wide body. So again, it wasn't a. I think in that possession, I think Rideau had actually broken it up early with he tipped a pass, which meant that the ball ends up being reversed to Kern quite late on in the shot clock again. And, again, it was very much one out, and there was no kind of understanding of this is where Sheffield want the ball. So if you go back over the last 3 minutes of the game, did Nixon touch the ball?
I can't remember him
I
touching it.
can't
They,
remember him
they
touching the
well have.
ball.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
know they turned it over 4 times.
yeah, So did Nixon touch the ball? Most probably not. And that's a problem because he's probably the most proven of all the guys. So it ends up being Kern. And as I say, I'm not sure he wasn't fouled, but there wasn't enough there for me to be definitive. And White got his hands out the way quickly enough. So yeah. So and then the whole farce with the clock, which is a farce.
Mm,
If 2.5 seconds out of a 6 second game is pretty significant,
mm,
whether it mattered or not, it's a farce. The you know, Again, we're dealing with, well, we just have to be better. I don't know whose job it is to be better, whether it's a ref's job, whether it's the table official's job or whatever, or whether, someone just can't go across the table and say, what time did we stop on the stats last time?
yeah. I,
Point
I,
two.
I just or ask me because I'd actually written it down.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to ask me. The
Oh,
um the reality is in that situation, as you say, because it's coming from a dead ball situation, it's coming from a free throw. It in my head, if I was an official, either table or referee, I'd be going right 30.2. So it's 6.2 if there's a shot clock violation.
absolutely.
That
I
would
mean,
be my first thought. 6.2 if it's a shot clock violation.
that has to be something you've got to be proactive about.
Mm,
So that's not good. So losing two in a bit of seconds isn't good, whoever's fault it is.
mm.
And then
So
yeah,
timeout, advance the ball, this side, that side, this side, to me, to
yeah.
you, to me. Rideau into Diggins. Diggins hands it back. He creates some space and hits the three on the buzzer.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, a couple of things. Obviously, this is Rideau's redemption because the first 3 games he really wasn't very good.
Mm,
But to be fair, Ben put the ball in his hands at the end, so that says that he's got some faith in him.
mm,
Um, Secondly, again, Kern was on the court. I think that interests me because to my mind at the moment he's a proven offensive player.
mm,
I'm not sure he's a proven defensive player yet, and I think they have other guys who probably are. So I was interested that he was kept on the court at that point. And what happened was Nixon basically Rideau threw the ball in, and as soon as Rideau took off, Nixon didn't try to impede his cut in any way or get in front of him. Nixon just basically waved him off to Kern and switched. So Nixon ends up taking Diggins, which means that suddenly Rideau has got the rookie on him. Um, and I think it's probably fair to say that the rookie's not been in the weight room as much as some of the more senior pros.
mm,
That said, It was a foul.
Mm,
He fouled him. I'm sorry. I watched it. Initially, I thought, because I thought, has he just created space with his shoulder? Because you're entitled to be stronger than the other guy. And Kern, as I say, doesn't have to back away. But when you watch it back, there's an obvious movement of the arm out. And that obvious movement of the arm creates a space. It actually knocks Kern considerably off his balance. It creates a space for Ado to shoot the ball.
mm.
Now, I don't know if other refs who've been more experienced in the league would have held the bottle to call that. I don't really mind players deciding games, but that play, Kern was in legal guarding position, and Rideau, with the movement of his arm as opposed to with the movement of his shoulder, knocked him out of the way.
Mm.
And to me, that's an offensive foul. Brave call, mate.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's a tough call to make at the end of it,
It is a
end
tough
of a
call, mate, but
tight
that's
game.
that's why that's ultimately where I say the refs earn the very limited money that they get,
Mm,
and I do think there is something to be said to say that it is harder for less experienced and lower graded refs to make calls against the home teams at the end of games.
mm.
I just think that you become, I mean, sometimes to be a ref, you have to be unpopular,
Yeah,
whether you're
yeah,
right
yeah,
or wrong.
yeah, yeah,
There's a call that Ian McDonald made against in the Cheshire Newcastle 12-point game last year, where he called on sportsmanlike with 20 seconds to go at the end,
yeah. Mm,
which was absolutely infuriated Cheshire. It might have been right, it might have been wrong. But there's Neil Wilkinson. The example is always Neil Wilkinson making the call in the European game, the basket
yeah, 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 yeah.
against the basket interference on the buzzer against the Turkish lunatics. You have to have real cojones to do that, and it's a bit much to expect
Mm,
for people who are refereeing their kind of second or third game at that level. So I thought at the end of the game, whilst I thought Sheffield really kind of melted down to a little degree, to a certain degree, obviously most indicative by their shot selection and the turnover.
mm,
Yeah, I also thought they were a little bit harsh done to. The difficulty is though, they gave up 24 3-point attempts to Cheshire in the second half,
mm.
right? If you're gonna, and that was even after Cheshire had made the first five or six,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you're not going to be committed to that, then don't complain when Cheshire make one on the buzzer to win.
Mm,
When
mm,
White makes one with 2 minutes to go to pull them back. You know, they they have this they have this aura, Sheffield, of a very good team. They really do. The players, they're clearly they're a bunch of really talented players, and they carry themselves like they're a really good team. But there were times in this game whereby I thought they were being outworked, and the offensive rebounding numbers in particular say
mm,
that. There were last week they played Newcastle last week, and they ground out a win. It was an ugly win. Possibly aided by the fact that Newcastle aren't as offensively powerful as Cheshire, but they ground it out. In this game, they played Cheshire's game, particularly in the second half.
mm,
You cannot let Cheshire shoot 24 threes. It doesn't matter if none of them go in, because they're going to get long rebounds, they're going to create chaos. And three is more than two.
mm.
And when you shoot 24 threes, that's 24 points more than 24 twos.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Now, you might only be able to take 8 or 9 of them away, but that's still 8 or 9 points more,
Mm,
if you have a commitment to doing it. So they've got, yeah, I mean, I think Atiba will look back at the last 3 minutes and think we contributed to our own downfall. But I also think he'll have a look back and think, well, maybe on another day we might get a couple of calls
mm.
and that gives us a couple of foul shots and maybe the game is the
Out
momentum
of
never
reach. Yeah,
builds.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So Diggins
Really
18.
popular in Cheshire, hasn't it?
Yeah.
They just had a step back game winner from the returning
Yeah,
hero. And I'm
yeah,
sitting here saying that was a foul, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's a lot. I don't think we'll be getting any more cookies from Cheshire. Uh,
You're not getting one of these, mate. You're not getting one of these.
just yeah. Oh dear me, give me a break. Does it, no, here's me talking about corruption and high.
I, I could
Taking,
open my San Miguel, but
yeah, we're
I've
taking.
got.
So it's like we're on the BBF board. Um, the just on Cheshire, the minutes were interesting. Policelli only played 9 minutes. Diggins played 35 minutes.
Mm,
And early on in the season, it's always interesting to see which coaches are going, which players for which minutes. Because it kind of can be indicative of how things are going in the background. So that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, Diggins was quite impactful when he made some threes. He becomes really quite a dangerous player. Um, But overall, it was a fun game, and my eyebrows went up a few times.
Yeah, but Diggins 18 points, White 4 of 9 threes for 16 points, Cameron 13 points. They were 14 of 39
Yeah,
from three, 16 offensive rebounds, only 11 second chance points, mind. 17 points off turnovers. It felt like that in the last 4 minutes as well.
yeah, you
Uh,
have to play more defense. So with all those offensive rebounds, even if you're missing, you play more defense.
yeah. Nixon 18 points, Williams 15, Chapman 13. Just for comparison, Sheffield were 9 of 23, so 16 less attempts for 5 less makes.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Oh, by the way, I missed bad call of the week as well on the other game, the Surrey game.
I'm trying to remember back now. It was
Surrey versus Caledonia, end
yeah.
of second quarter.
Oh, the goaltend.
Oh dear me, come on.
Now, our friend from Surrey
Yeah,
asked me about that and sent me a clip from the rule in real time. I thought it was a bad call, but then he whatever it was in the rule, it made it look like it was a bad call. But then he later sent me a clip from the end of the game, and it's if the whistle has blown or the buzzer has sounded, you're not
right.
allowed to touch the ball
Is that right?
in that situation. Yeah.
In that case, take it all back.
Take
Good
it all
call.
back. Yeah.
Good call. There you go, Bob. You know more than me. Good job.
Yeah. Uh,
Although it did make up for the charge he called on the in the restricted zone early in the first quarter.
yeah. That
Yeah,
was
that was
it was
good
only
job
if you only
finding a
got
rule
that
which,
far inside.
yeah, good job finding a rule which supports that one.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So well, there you go. See, we learn
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah. So that wraps up our 10-minute extra bit of what is about 50 minutes.
Sorry, Dan.
So no, it's not your fault, is it?
Yeah,
Uh,
well,
but we'll no doubt revisit that situation as it
develops.
bumbles along
Yeah.
over the course of the next weeks and months and probably years as well. But we'll call it a night. Next week is a bit of a challenge. I'll message you during the week,
Yeah.
but
No
next week's a
problem.
bit of a challenge. We'll work something out. But for now, we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Hey, guys.